What if I told you that there are places in the world where people enter, but never leave? Places surrounded by mystery, where those who dared to set foot simply disappeared without a trace. Dense forests that seem to swallow visitors, forbidden islands that hide dark secrets, ghost towns where something seems to lurk in the darkness. What happens in these places? Were they just accidents? Or is there something much more sinister behind these disappearances? Imagine walking through a forest and suddenly realizing that you can no longer hear any sounds around you. The wind stops, the birds disappear, and for some inexplicable reason, your body feels a shiver. You try to look back, but the fog has gotten thicker. The path you came from is no longer there. Your heart races. You scream, but the sound seems to be swallowed by the environment itself. Now, you understand why no one has ever gone back to tell the story of these places. Mysterious disappearances happen every day, but in these places the cases defy any logical explanation. Some people simply evaporate with no trace, no signs of struggle, no evidence that they were ever there. The strangest thing, many of these places have been known for their macabre stories for centuries. Ancient accounts tell of travelers who got lost in these regions and were never seen again. Authorities tried to investigate, but in some cases even the investigators disappeared. And they're not just legends. There is evidence that something is happening. Enigmatic photographs, objects left behind, recordings that record disturbing sounds. There are places so dangerous that they have been sealed forever, but that doesn't stop adventurers from trying to explore them. Some return, terrified. Others simply disappear, adding to the list of mysteries that no one can solve. What is behind these unexplained disappearances? Supernatural forces? Dimensional rifts? Or is there something more? Something they don't want us to know? At the end of this video, I will reveal one of the most sinister cases ever recorded, where an entire team disappeared without a trace. But before we reveal these enigmatic places, answer me. Are you really prepared to discover the most disturbing mysteries in history? What happens in these places defies all known explanations. There are witness reports, official documents, chilling recordings, and to this day, no one has been able to completely decipher what is behind these disappearances. Some of these stories have been hushed up, banned, and even removed from public records. But why? What are they trying to hide? What if I told you that one of these places could be closer to you than you think? That there is a place in your own country where people have disappeared without a trace and few people talk about it? The worst thing is that these disappearances have not stopped happening. They remain unexplained, unsolved. What would you do if you found a blocked path, a warning sign, but you knew that behind it lies one of the greatest mysteries in the world? Would you move forward or turn around? If you've made it this far, it's because you like mysteries as much as I do, and I guarantee that this video will surprise you. But before continuing, leave your like because it helps me bring more content like this. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now and turn on notifications, because in the next videos we'll explore even more forbidden places and cases so scary you won't believe they're real. Now take a deep breath and get ready to discover the places where people disappear without explanation. Imagine a place where time seems to stop, where technology simply fails, and where silence does not bring peace but rather a warning that something is wrong. You feel the air heavier, the feeling of being watched grows with each step, but when you look around, there is no one. The wind doesn't blow, the animals disappear, and suddenly, your cell phone loses signal. You try to use a compass, but the needle spins around and around without finding north. It's as if something invisible is playing with reality, distorting your perception. Now imagine that you are walking along an unfamiliar trail. The damp ground muffles your steps. Mist slowly spreads between the gnarled trees, and when you look down, you see footprints, fresh footprints, still marked in the mud. But there's something wrong. You're alone. The trail continues in front of you and looks fresh, as if someone was walking there or something. Your heart races, your senses sharpen. You think about going back, but suddenly, a crack in the middle of the bush makes your body freeze. You feel the presence of something or someone, but you can't see it. What would you do? Would you continue or run away as quickly as possible? What if I told you that these places exist, that they are not just invented stories, but real places, documented, investigated, and that, to this day, no one has been able to explain why so many people have disappeared in them? These are not isolated cases. Witness accounts, police investigations, and even historical records show that, over the years, many who dared to explore these sites simply disappeared without a trace. No cry for help, no trace of a struggle, just a mystery that was never solved. The most disturbing? Some of these places have been banned by governments, closed to the public, or avoided even by locals. Those who tried to come back with answers only brought more questions. There is something about these places that defies logic and terrifies even the most skeptical. What could be behind these disappearances? Are we dealing with paranormal phenomena, unknown forces, or something they don't want us to know about? Now take a deep breath, because what comes next will give you goosebumps. The first stop on this journey of mysteries takes us to Bouvet Island, one of the most isolated and uninhabited places in the world. Surrounded by the South Atlantic Ocean, this remote island seems completely forgotten by time, a landscape covered in ice and devoid of signs of human life. However, something strange happened there. In 1964, a Norwegian expedition landed on the island and found something inexplicable, an abandoned rubber boat without a crew, with no sign of survivors. Who brought him there? Where did it come from? There were no records of missing vessels in the region. The boat was intact, but there were no traces of life around it. No footprints in the snow, no survival gear, no bodies. It was as if the crew had disappeared into thin air. The mystery remains unsolved to this day, and the island remains inaccessible to most people. What could have happened there? Could it have been an attempt to escape from something even more sinister? Or are we facing a case where reality defies logic? If Bouvet Island seems scary, what happens in Russia's Death Valley is even more disturbing. Located in a remote region of Siberia, this valley gained fame through reports of explorers who simply disappeared without a trace. Local legends speak of invisible forces that affect anyone who ventures there. Entire expeditions were wiped out without explanation. Some researchers tried to investigate the region's mysteries but gave up after describing feelings of weakness, mental confusion, and overwhelming fear, as if something was watching and draining their energy. They say that the vegetation in Death Valley grows in strange ways, as if something in the ground is corrupting nature. The few who manage to get out tell scary stories about figures moving in the fog, whispers in the middle of the night, and a cold that seems to come out of nowhere. Does Death Valley have a scientific explanation, or is there something that challenges our understanding of reality? If isolated places already bring with them an air of mystery, a ghost town in the United States seems to have taken this idea to another level. Dudleytown, Connecticut is a town that has been abandoned for decades and has a dark reputation. There are no inhabitants, no tourists, just ruins and chilling stories. Those who tried to spend the night there reported hearing voices whispering among the trees, figures appearing in the darkness, and an unbearable feeling of being watched. There are reports of strange disappearances in the region, where people who went camping simply disappeared without leaving a trace. The city was built on land considered cursed by indigenous people, and many believe that supernatural forces haunt Dudleytown, warding off anyone who tries to explore it. The mystery persists. What really happened to cause the entire city to be abandoned? And more importantly, did those who disappeared there find something they should never have seen? But no disappearance mystery is as frightening as what happened at Dyatlov Pass in Russia. What began as a simple student expedition turned into one of the greatest enigmas in history. 9 experienced young winter hikers set off on a journey into the Ural Mountains, but never returned. Days later, their tents were found torn from the inside, as if something had forced them to leave in a panic in the middle of the night. Their bodies were found scattered in the snow, some without clothes, others with unexplained fractures, and an even more sinister detail: high levels of radiation in their clothes. There were no signs of a struggle, but something clearly terrified them. The Russian government classified the case as death by unknown force, which only fueled the theories further. Could it be an extreme natural phenomenon, a secret military experiment, or something even more mysterious that was never revealed? Patterns are too strange to ignore. First, you find strange tracks, footprints that end out of nowhere. Then there are reports of unexplained noises in the woods, sounds of voices and whispers that come from nowhere. And then, something even more disturbing happens. People disappear without explanation, without leaving a trace, without any clue that could lead to an answer. In some cases, personal effects are found intact, but the bodies never appear. In others, the missing are found sometime later, but with no memory of what happened. Witnesses who survived these places describe indescribable sensations. Some speak of shadows moving in the fog, others of strange lights in the sky. In some cases, cameras and recorders captured frightening sounds, screams coming from distant points, constant banging in the middle of the forest, and even voices murmuring words in unknown languages. What could be behind these events? Some force of nature that we still don't understand? A paranormal phenomenon? Or something that defies all known scientific explanations? What's even more curious is that many of these places seem to have been purposely forgotten. Some have been erased from maps, others have been sealed by governments and declared inaccessible. But why? What is it about these places that they don't want us to know? Is there anything beyond legends and scary stories? The truth may be hidden among the stories and documents that never came to light. And it was here that the last images were captured. Images that completely defy logic. Cameras that failed without explanation. Recordings stopped abruptly. Whispered voices picked up by microphones that were supposedly in empty environments. There are records of people entering these places and never being seen again. And in some cases their belongings were found intact, as if they had simply evaporated. In one such shot, an explorer walks down a dark corridor of an abandoned facility, his flashlight flickering on the damp wall. Everything seems normal until, when reviewing the images, something terrifying appears. A formless shadow appears for a split second, moving too fast to be human. The scariest? The explorer swears he was alone there. These places have been banned for decades, sealed by authorities and considered a risk zone. But, as always with forbidden mysteries, there are those who refuse to accept limits. Some adventurers tried to explore this territory, looking for answers, but not everyone returned. There are reports of entire groups disappearing without a trace. Others, who managed to get out, tell stories so disturbing they seem straight out of horror films. People who claim to have heard voices calling their names, figures that appear in the corner of their vision and disappear the moment they are looked at, and even unexplained lapses of time, where explorers say they only spent a few minutes inside the place, but upon leaving, discover that hours or even days have passed. The residents closest to this place avoid talking about what happens there. Many don't even mention the name of the place. There is something so profound and terrifying about these disappearances that even those who have never been, there seem to feel an inexplicable fear just thinking about what might be hidden. What is really happening in these places? Could it be a supernatural phenomenon that defies logic, portals to another reality, or something much darker and more incomprehensible than we imagine? What is behind these disappearances? Who, or what, could be behind all this? What we saw today is just the beginning. But what if I told you that there are even more sinister places, where people are still missing to this day? Places so haunted that even locals avoid mentioning their names. Places where even authorities can't find explanations. What if some of these mysteries are closer than we imagine? Who's to say that when you turn the next corner you won't be faced with something that defies logic? If you've made it this far, congratulations. You are part of the select group of people who truly love mysteries and want to understand the unexplainable. But now I want to know, which of these places gave you the most goosebumps? Comment here, I would explore. If you think you would have the courage to visit one of them, or this is too scary. If you didn't even pay, you wouldn't step foot in these prohibited places. If you were curious about this video and want to know more mysteries that science cannot explain, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss the next videos. There are many more dark secrets and unexplained disappearances to come. It is clear, if you made it to the end, leave a like because it helps me bring you more chilling stories and grow our community of explorers of the unknown. Now, don't leave yet. The next video that appears on the screen will take you to an even more disturbing mystery. Click now and find out what they don't want you to know.